welcome back into the Sean podcast. It's been a minute or two, or minutes or months, you know. But we are back again. Lots going on this summer. We apologize for leaving you without us. We know you missed us. Yeah, you can't live without us. But we're now back to give you that amateur opinion. Sean, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's been 2 months, but don't worry, people. We are still amateur. That hasn't changed, right? We're still giving you the same amateur opinions we gave you 2, 3, 4 months ago. You're still getting that today. Don't worry.
Now, that being said, there's some people who technically aren't amateur, who their opinions aren't that great either. I recently heard legitimate scout, to say that there's a player from Bama that's underrated. I'm sorry. You play for Bama, you automatically aren't underrated. It's just the way it is. Just saying.
That's true. Can't argue with that one. If you're going to Alabama, you probably got scholarship opportunities from about 6, 7, 8 schools. Big schools. You're thinking your USC, what are big schools out there? Ohio State's. Drawing a blank on my colleges now. But,
Clemson.
Yeah. Like your
Florida.
big schools, you're getting all those offers. You're not underrated. Please.
Please, get out of here.
Please.
All right. So I have promised my esteemed co-host here that we will not talk about a certain quarterback in the upper regions of the Midwest. We're just not going to touch on that right now. We will talk about it sometime, but we are leaving it alone for his first episode back.
Don't want to set me off so soon. Okay.
So we won't touch that situation.
But
just
good
yet.
news, this unknown quarterback did report to training camp. So
Yes, he did. His last one for that team. I mean.
probably the last one for this team. Probably.
From one disgruntled quarterback to another, the one that we will talk about is Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson.
Who also reported to training camp.
Yes, he did. He didn't want to miss out on that money.
Exactly. He doesn't want those fines. He wants that paycheck.
Yeah, darn right. Them ducats. And so, what I will say, we are not going to touch on his legal situation.
Nope, just like before. Nope.
In a world, though, where, let's say, he comes out the other side of this legal situation, no jail time or anything like that. He's just dealing with maybe an NFL suspension. Even if it's for a full year, I think a team would be smart to try to grab him. Personally. I'm just saying, in the essence that he gets on the other side of this with, true ramifications that we're not going to talk about. So we're talking about in the essence that he comes out and he's playing football. So what we're doing today, or at least for our first segment, because we're jumping in the deep end, we're going to say which 14 teams should be trading for Deshaun Watson. Not which ones could, not which ones, possibility. I'm talking about which ones should. Okay? All right. Sean, I'm going to put you on the spot. You go first.
Ooh.
Give me a team.
Me go
We're
first.
Going to go 4 teams.
4 teams
and
each.
possibly a bonus.
All right. I think the first team, which is pretty I'm going to say obvious, but it's a team that was expressing interest in Deshaun Watson before all this legal stuff happened. But my first one's going to be the Denver Broncos. They still do not have their quarterback situation solidified. They have Drew Lock. They have Teddy Bridgewater now. They ended up passing on drafting a quarterback. Someone like Justin Fields, right?
Hey.
Yeah, they passed on him, and I mean that lets you know that they're still looking. You don't go into your season with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock as your options and think, hey, this is the best that we're gonna get. No, Deshaun Watson's still out there. I still think that Denver's a realistic landing choice for Deshaun Watson, just like it did before.
See, I don't, personally. I think I know what Denver's doing. Now, I think Denver didn't know what they were doing for a very long time. But I think they know what they're doing now. And like I said at the top, we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, we're just teasing it at this point. We're really going to draw this out into a future pod, future episode.
Yeah.
We're just teasing this out.
Yeah. But I think everybody knows what I mean by that. I know you know what I mean by that.
For the people who may not know, the idea is that Aaron Rodgers could become available next offseason, depending on how his restructured contract looks, whether it includes voidable years that ends up allowing Rodgers to get traded or become a free agent. But I don't think the free agent's going to be an option because I think Green Bay can't let Aaron Rodgers go and get nothing in return besides like a third round compensatory pick. That's nothing for Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely nothing. So you're thinking that they're gonna hold off on any and all quarterback activity and wait for yeah. Okay. I can see that happening. Now being a person who lives in Colorado, right? Myself, I wouldn't mind if Aaron Rodgers was traded to the Denver Broncos because then I could watch him a little bit more on TV. I wouldn't mind that so much. I like this idea. I like your idea.
All right, so my top team that should do this. Oddly enough, with all the Rodgers talk, this is a Rodgers rival. That would be the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry, Kirk Cousins has been there how many years? How many times has he taken them to the playoffs? How many times has he gotten it done? He's not getting it done. They need an upgrade. They have Kirk Cousins as a piece to add into that trade aspect of him, and they could get this done.
They could. They have a win now roster.
Hey Sean, hold on. I'm gonna be right back. Sorry about that, people. Oh, off to a great start. Taking breaks while doing the pod.
Yeah, I hope they enjoyed a message from our sponsors.
We got sponsors?
Womp womp.
Where's my check at? Now, Sean, you were saying something about Minnesota win-ready, winnable roster.
Yeah, it's a winnable roster, but they're in win now mode. You're thinking they have improved the offense, they've improved the defense. Could they contend for the division this year? It's possible. Could they make a run in the playoffs? They could do it. I mean, they got a team that's ready to be able to do it. But is Kirk Cousins really the quarterback who's going to get it done for them? Is he the one who's going to lead them to the playoffs and to playoff victory?
In my opinion.
Your opinion's a big fat no, and I think a lot of people might agree with that. He puts up numbers, right? He gets some wins. Could Minnesota be better with the Deshaun Watson? I definitely think they'd be a lot more dangerous, and I wouldn't want to see that in the division just because I'm a Packer fan. But I could see Minnesota, and I could see them winning. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Sean, give us another team that you got.
Another team that could or should trade for Deshaun.
Not could, should.
Whew. All right, so if we're going should, Philadelphia Eagles should trade for Deshaun Watson.
We're going in a different realm now, huh?
Yeah, we are. depending on how they were looking at quarterbacks this past draft, wasn't there the rumor that they were trying to move up all the way up to number 2, number 3 in order to
Yeah, they
draft a
liked Zach Wilson.
quarterback? Yeah. So that already lets you know that, I mean, they got rid of Carson Wentz. They have Jalen Hurts, who there's potential there, right? We saw some flashes. We also saw some flash floods from him where he just did.
I'm not in agreement there.
You don't think there was flashes?
I think Jalen Hurts is a low tier starting QB to a top tier backup. That's what I think. He's not going to get you there. I think he's limited.
Yeah, he only had a handful of starts, and I mean, last year was just a really, really odd year overall.
I mean, we'll find out.
For Philadelphia.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see, but Philadelphia is a team that should trade for Deshaun Watson because they don't feel confident with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback by exploring a trade up to top 3 to try and get someone like Zach Wilson. So, it's going to be tough seeing what are they going to do with Jalen Hurts if Hurts starts to struggle. Do they pull him? Do they put Joe Flacco in? What is that going to look like?
No.
Do you ride out the wave and hope you get an early draft pick next year? Unfortunately, I think Philadelphia is going to win just
Who's their
enough.
Quarterback?
Just enough. The third quarterback?
Who's their third quarterback?
Oh, I can't remember their third quarterback right now. But I think they're going to win just enough games to be out of range of the top 2-3 quarterbacks in this coming draft, which we'll talk about soon. Nick Mullen. Oh, yeah.
But, all right. Philly, that'd be scary to me. It is a team that should, if their cap will allow it. A team I'm going to go with is another team that's scary to me. It's controversial, considering the stuff we're not talking about with Deshaun Watson, and considering this team's history with stuff like that. And that's the Washington football team. Washington football team's got a hell of a defense. They got some real nice weapons. And what they're lacking is at the quarterback position. Their offensive line's kind of declining also. But this is still a solid team that with a quarterback could make some real noise. And yeah, they should probably try to trade for Deshaun Watson. That would probably be a great fit for him.
That would be, yeah. Yeah.
Got some thoughts over there, Sean?
Yeah, it'd be a much more dangerous offense when you have Deshaun Watson instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick. You have players like Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. I mean, I'm not saying that Ryan Fitzpatrick can't get the job done, but if we're thinking in the hypothetical...
No, I'm outright saying it.
If we're thinking in the hypothetical who should trade, yeah, Washington. Ryan Fitzpatrick's on a 1-year deal.
1-year deal.
That lets you know.
He is a journeyman quarterback for a reason. You said it not to say he can't get it done. I'm saying he can't get it done. There's a reason why. How many teams has he played for? No, actually, better question that's easier to answer. How many teams haven't he played for?
Yeah, he's your bridge quarterback. He fills in for a year, moves on to the next team.
All right, what's another team for you? We're almost there.
Ooh, I'm going to go Miami. I'm going to go the Dolphins, who should trade for Deshaun Watson.
And I full-fledged disagree with this one, but hey.
I know you do. I mean, the asking price for Deshaun Watson is, 5 combined picks and players to get the
Which
deal.
they won't get.
Yeah, that's what they're asking for, but they have a cornerback. Miami has a cornerback who doesn't want to be on the roster, who wants to be traded.
Sucks to be him.
I know. But if you're going to give up somebody, why not give up the guy who wants you out of town? He's all pro. He's a good quality defender. A team like Houston could use that on their roster, along with the draft picks and Tua and whoever else Miami wants to package to go over there. But just think how much better would that Miami offense be if you had Deshaun Watson leading it rather than Tua? you're thinking he already played with Will Fuller in Houston, so there was that connection there. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, Myles Gaskin.
Oh, you leave my guy Preston Williams off the list?
There we go. I knew there was another one I was forgetting. Yeah, I'm a little rusty.
Here's the thing.
A little rusty.
Here's the thing. Right now, yes, and probably even in the future, yes, Watson is a clear upgrade over Tua. But is he enough in an upgrade over Tua to give up the asset? I don't know. I really don't know because I still believe in Tua. I still think Tua's talented.
Yeah.
I still think that he's got a lot to offer. I don't think Miami should give up on him just yet.
They did a good job of surrounding Tua with talent and ways to improve, but it's all up to Tua. I mean, we don't even know how soon any potential trade for
Watson
could happen, but
You know, a second-year QB. Hey, I'm just saying. Now, another team, in my personal opinion, let's see. We name most of the ones that thing. But this team is probably not a destination Watson should go to either. Nor probably does he want to, considering the coaching staff. But it's Las Vegas.
Who wouldn't want to play for John Gruden?
A lot of people. This team has Derek Carr as a quarterback. Again, Derek Carr he's a solid QB. Not great, not special. You know, he's just solid. Can you get the job done? I don't know. No, their weapons are lackluster. I get it, they got Henry Ruggs. Personally, I'm not high on Henry Ruggs. You know, I like fast guys.
Yeah, Darren
They're
Waller.
complementary pieces. They got Darren Waller. Their offensive line, I have no clue what's going on there. So and then their defense is a mess. But Deshaun Watson would immediately ignite energy into that team and probably give new life for this lackluster John Gruden experiment.
He would give life, but
He's like life, but I don't know about anything else.
yeah. I don't think Las Vegas becomes a playoff team. I think they have so many pieces that they themselves are lacking before they can become a playoff team that it wouldn't be worth it for Las Vegas to give up the capital and the players that are required to get Watson, because they would just be setting themselves back. And John Gruden's got nothing to lose, right? He's got a 10-year deal. He's in, year 4 of it right now? So they're playing the long game in Las Vegas, which is really impressive because you see coaches last maybe 1, 2, 3 years before they're out. And Gruden's got 10 years, so that one, I have a hard time with that one.
That's fair. So, do you got one more? I do have one more. But do you have any more?
I am going to go with, I'm going to keep pounding the table for the Carolina Panthers. It's what I was doing before months ago, and I'm coming back to it now. They passed on a quarterback in round 1 when they had people like Justin Fields fall to them, and they just went on and picked J.C. Horn. So I'm going to keep pounding the table for the Carolina Panthers. Bring them back home.
My one is New Orleans.
You mean Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston can't get it done?
I have no faith in them whatsoever.
Oh, haven't you seen Jameis's training videos this offseason?
I could care less. I ain't eating no W. That will stick in my mind forever. Eating the W.
Oh, man.
All right, moving on. We're going to move on to our first... before we move on, any other news you want to bring up, Sean?
If we're talking football news, man, there's a lot of football news. You have Aaron Rodgers, who just reported to camp. You have maybe Randall Cobb comes back to town. We'll see. Still waiting for that to be announced. You have Xavier Howard asking for a trade. You have Chandler Jones asking for a trade. In college football, you have the whole name, image, likeness. College athletes can now get paid
Which I'm all for
their NIL, name, image, likeness. I agree with it. However, I think
Bring
there
back
should.
NCAA football.
I like the idea that they can be compensated, because I mean, you're thinking, how much money do they bring into these universities? Football is such a big thing, a big revenue maker, and they make nothing out of it now.
Did you hear Mac Jones's not Mac Jones, what's his name? Mac the North Carolina coach.
Mac Brown?
Mac Brown, that's it. Mac Brown's comment?
What did he say?
He said, you know something, you probably should fire the offensive coordinator and just let Sam Howell do it. You know, just pay Sam to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on to our next segment, we are previewing college quarterbacks for the 2022 draft. This is our summer scouting. So, who you want to go first? You want me or you?
I think the people are used to me going first, so I can go first if you want to go first.
No. I asked the question already. You need to make the answer now.
I'll go first.
All right, thank you. There we go. So, who's the number 5 QB on your list?
Now, I think before we even start talking about the quarterbacks, one thing for everybody to know, is not one single person that we talk about in this section today is going to be in the Trevor Lawrence stratosphere. And what I mean is, last year, Trevor Lawrence could have thrown garbage on the field, right? He could have put up pedestrian performances, and it wouldn't have mattered because he was still going to be drafted number 1, no matter what.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, that's not saying much, because Trevor Lawrence was the top billing ever since his freshman year.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, the 2 drafts before that, there were players that came out of nowhere. So, well, not necessarily out of nowhere. Well, no, not necessarily out of nowhere. I said they were there, but they had great years. And these are just players that we're putting out to watch, and possibly could, make that ascension.
Yeah, but with this group, all these quarterbacks that we're talking about, they all have questions. They all have questions that need to be answered, and they all, in one way, shape, form, need to make improvements this year. No one can be stagnant. No one can just coast on by. They all need to do something, or otherwise their draft stock is going to be hurt.
There's one QB who can remain stagnant if everybody else remains stagnant and go. But we'll discuss that. All right, well, let's get you number 5.
All right, number 5, USC quarterback Kedon Slovis. He had a great freshman year, 2019. He stepped in week 1 when JT Daniels went out with an injury, and USC stuck with him for the remainder of the year. As a freshman, put up 3,300 yards, 30 touchdowns. He had a great start to his USC career, but he didn't take that step forward last year. It was a shortened season, but there still wasn't that progress, and it almost seemed like he may have taken a step backward. Now, some of it could be due to an elbow injury that he suffered during the bowl game his freshman year. He got hit in the elbow. Coming back from that, it sounds like, I think he himself said that he was experiencing some mechanical issues, and he had a lack of confidence coming back from that injury. He wasn't able to make all the throws like he was going to, like he needed to. So this caused him to be less aggressive, more conservative with his throws. The 2 questions I ask myself is, does he have the skills to make the leap in 2021? The answer to that is yes.
Here's my question: is he a legit NFL prospect, or is he just a good college quarterback? That's my question. Like, what makes him special? I don't see anything about him that makes him special because you look at it, he works well in the confines of his offense, but he does a lot of weird stuff. He makes it harder on himself. Like, he likes to get off platform too often when he doesn't need to. He also, I get it. You know who your receivers are. But when this dude's wide open and you're firing it into double coverage on the stud wide receiver, these are things that he needs to change.
Yeah, and that's where the improvement comes in. That's where the improvement needs to be made. He could easily, he's not going to be the number one quarterback in this draft class, but could he get to up to number 3? I think 3 is about as high as he could get. But he could,
especially with these other guys.
Yeah, he could easily fall back as far as 10, though.
Honestly, he's probably more around 10 on my list. You know, it's just I'm not there with him. I'm just not.
Nope. So the first question I ask myself is, does he have the skills to be able to make a leap? Yes, he has them. The second question I ask myself is he a quarterback that I would trust late in the fourth quarter to win the game for me? Right now, the answer is not yet. He needs to make some improvements.
Now, all that being said, my number 5 guy, oddly enough, is the guy he took over for at USC, Mr. JT Daniels, who is now at Georgia. And it's just odd because, well, first of all, JT Daniels is basically Mr. California there. Just awesome. And then he didn't lose his job because he wasn't good. He lost his job because he got injured. And Slovis did have a really great freshman year. Now, Daniels, recovering, found out that Slovis was going to continue to be the starter. So he goes over to Georgia. Georgia allows him to recover, tells him we're going to start this guy until you recover. Once he recovers, he only plays a couple of games, but he lights it up. And this is a guy who, yes, his tools are NFL tools. They're not super special or anything. Where he's special is between the ears. This guy just knows and has a feel for how to play the quarterback position. And for me, he's the biggest wild card in this draft because this guy could go all the way up to number 1 or fall out of the top 5 altogether. It's just, he's a really interesting prospect to me. Any thoughts on Daniels?
Interesting. Yes, I don't think he's going to get up as high as number 1.
I'm just saying he could. I'm not saying he will.
I don't think he could. No. I think very similar to Kadon, he might get up to 3, but I don't see him becoming the number 1 quarterback of this class.
And with the pedigree, you never know. I'm just saying that we've seen stranger things have happened.
We saw Joe Burrow move up to number 1. Yeah.
You're right. We saw Baker Mayfield. So,
True.
all right. So, let's go with your number 4 player.
Number 4, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral. Good year last year under Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin has that aggressive and up-tempo offense. He performed pretty well. He has an above-average arm. He's a threat with his legs, too, and I think that's going to be a trend that we see with a couple of these quarterbacks that we're talking about a little bit later on is they're a little bit of a dual threats. Now, they're not going to put up 1,000 yards on the ground, not like Lamar Jackson did, but they have the ability to scare the defenses, keep them honest. They have that rushing ability. And what are the traits that you look for with a quarterback? You're looking for confidence. You're looking for accuracy. You're looking for decision-making. Matt Corral, he's got confidence. Sometimes that confidence gets him into trouble, because
Right.
that arm of his thinks
Right.
that he can put that ball anywhere it needs to go, and he is not always right with that. So, but he's got the confidence, right? He's not lacking there. The accuracy, he's got above average accuracy. The decision making, that's the big area of opportunity. I think it's that overconfidence that it kind of not messes with, but kind of distorts that decision making process where he's like, well, there's double and triple coverage over there. Can I get it? Yeah,
I can do it.
I can do that. I can get it there in time.
I can get it.
And then he gets intercepted 5 times in a game, and yeah.
Yeah.
So decision making,
He had too many of those.
yeah. Well, I think he had almost all of his interceptions came within a 3-game span. One of them was like a really rainy game against LSU, I think. But a couple of those games in there, questionable decision making. If he can improve on that, I mean, there's really high expectations in Lane Kiffin's offense. A full season with the Lane Kiffin offense. He's a guy,
Right.
I mean, he's number 4 right now. I don't think he can be number 1 for this class, but I think he can get up as high as number 2 for this class if everything falls his way.
See, my main issue is when things break down, what's he going to do? And that's where I need the improvement from him. Because as long as everything's perfect, this dude's a fire. I mean, this is just going to, he looks amazing. But when things break down, where are you putting the ball? Because it's almost like when things start breaking down, he's like, I'm just going to trust this and I'm going to throw it up. And I'm going to tell you right now, bud, we ain't playing 500.
This is backyard football.
No, it ain't. you got to make better decisions than that. All right, moving on to my number 4 guy. It is Nevada quarterback Carson Strong. And yeah, let's just be honest. This boy's appropriately named. He has quite the strong arm. I think that he could be possibly the Zach Wilson of this draft. He's got good movements. He's not, he's not like a major scrambler or anything, but he can move. He got some wheels. The problem with him is this dude's got to like work on his feet. His arm being strong, sometimes his feet aren't right, and it's all arm. It's like, bud, you need to get set, get your footwork in place, and drive that. Don't just arm it. We don't need another Jay Cutler in the league. Thoughts?
Carson Strong.
Well, no, hold on. We'll hold off because let's introduce your number 3 guy, and then hear your thoughts.
My number 3
that
guy,
isn't a precursor.
Carson Strong, Nevada. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about who's the biggest wild card. I think Carson Strong is the biggest wild card. He made improvements last year, and you want a quarterback who's rising up the draft board. This is the guy, right? You want size. He's listed at 6'4", 215. He's got the NFL size. You want the strongest arm in the class? He's got the strongest arm in the class. He makes it look effortless. He looks good, but is it him that looks good, or is it that air raid offensive system that he's playing in that's making him look good?
Not to mention, he's not playing Power 5.
No, he's not playing Power 5. He's in that Mountain West where Zach Wilson came from, and we saw how well Zach Wilson did last year. But, again, was that him, or was that, him versus that with the system, that level of competition? And it could be the same effect here. It's almost like Trey Lance, too. Smaller school, bigger prospect, you have that ability. But
they look like they should against that level of competition.
Yeah, exactly. But what would Carson Strong look like in the Big 12 or the SEC or even the Big 10?
Is there still a Big 12?
It's like the Big 12 minus like 8 or 9 at this point. Who knows? But with the way that Nevada's offense is schemed, you won't get to see him go through all of his progressions. It's either going to be short or it's going to be long. You're not going to see him do the reads. You're not going to see him go to second, third, fourth options. And for me, I think that's what could hurt Carson Strong, or even help him if he shows improvement with that, or he has the ability to do that. But in the NFL, you're not going to have either a short option or a long option. You're going to have short, long, intermediate, silent. You're going to have many progressions that need to be read through.
Sure.
And it's not his fault. It's just the way the offense is schemed that he just doesn't. So for me, I don't see whether he can or not. I think that's the hard part. I can't see it, but if he can show that consistency, reading the different options, if we can get some progress, consistency when he's under pressure, he can shoot further up this draft board. Could he end up being the number one quarterback in this class? Could he? Yes, I think he could if everything goes his way and he shows all that improvement. But if he fails to read through the progressions and he doesn't make proper decisions under the pressure, could you see him falling to the third, fourth rounds? Yeah.
I'm not sure he will,
No.
considering those tools and the body.
Yeah. But it's like I was saying before, like everybody here has questions. Everybody here has something or another that they have to improve on. And that's his something.
Now, my number 3 guy is Liberty quarterback Malik Willis. Now, Malik Willis would have been the wild card in this draft, but people have been talking about Malik Willis for the whole entire summer. I mean, this guy was sneaking up, and then he wasn't.
It's almost like Carson Strong, sneak, sneak, sneak. Boom. Now everybody knows your name.
Also, talk about strong arm.
He's
another one.
He's probably got the second strongest arm in the class.
I mean, this dude's got a bona fide arm. Now, gonna bring up some history, because people don't know. Do you know which so he was, I forgot which school he was committed to, because they didn't want him to play quarterback.
Auburn.
No, there's a different school.
Different school.
And then Auburn offered him a quarterback.
Oh, was that?
And he was behind Jarrett Stidham.
Was that Virginia Tech?
Virginia Tech, I think it was. And then he was behind Jarrett Stidham. Wouldn't be me. Wouldn't be me putting Malik Willis behind Jarrett Stidham. Just saying. Then, Bo Nix beats him out. Wouldn't be me. Just saying. Wouldn't be me.
Wait, you're like the biggest Bo Nix fan I know.
God, I will never live down this Twitter. And then, so he leaves Auburn, goes to Liberty. Now he's an older guy. But, I mean, if this guy puts it together, NFL, because of his physical tools, the fact that how he can move and that arm, an NFL team just will feel like they have to give him a shot. There's going to be an NFL coach that sees what this kid can do and will look at his owner and say, I can do something with that.
I agree with that statement. I agree with that. Spoiler, he did not make my top 5. Now, he was knocking on the door for the top 5, I'll give you that, but he's not inside my top 5. Right. I think some teams can look at him and fall in love with him, but the word that's just in my mind right now about him, right now, is projects.
True.
Because if he can put it together this year, like Lamar Jackson did with Louisville, if he can do the dynamic running, which he's shown us, and he can put up the good passing, the passing numbers, and the good passing traits, now we got something. Now he could be a first-round quarterback if he puts all that together.
The only thing that makes me pause is some of who he reminds me of. And that's Carson. That's Colin Kaepernick. Playing style. Now, I don't know if he's an activist or not, but but playing style, they kind of remind me of each other.
Yeah. It almost seems like because if you're making that comparison, like when I think of Kaepernick, I think better runner than passer.
Right.
And
Right.
and teams might be hesitant on taking that on day one.
Well, because Willis is inconsistent, but those inconsistencies can be fixed. It's not stuff that cannot be fixed. It's not like he's broken. There's just like Corral. It's bad habits that can be fixed.
Yeah.
Now with Willis, I know these bad habits are because he's been bounced around a little too much. He needs to lock down a coaching staff that's gonna work, and then that's the thing. So he needs to go to a team that's stable. That might not work out for the top end of the draft, but if a team like, let's say, Pittsburgh, yeah, I mean,
He needs a good coaching staff, but before he gets that, he's got to show consistency with the passing game. That's what we
and
need to see.
that is his big issue. He's not consistent.
That's his question to answer this year. Can he put together a consistent passing season?
Speaking of consistency, like what I did
little
there.
Segue. All right.
Our number 2 guy. Spoiler: we both have the same number 2 guy. Consistency is his game. So both of us have Mr. Sam Howell and UNC as our number 2 quarterbacks. And Sean, I'll let you go first.
All right. If you haven't already, then you'll be hearing Baker Mayfield comparisons. Similar size, similar athleticism, similar appearance. Yeah. There's some similarities there. And Baker Mayfield was able to shoot all the way up to number 1 in the draft, your first overall pick. That's a pretty good comparison right there. So Sam Howell's in good company. And over the summer, he seemed to be like the quarterback who had the most buzz around him, because in the early summer, whenever you're hearing quarterbacks being talked about, the first name out was Sam Howell. And for good reason. I mean, he had a lot of good exposure, because you're thinking, not only did UNC put up a very productive offense last year, but they had 4 offensive weapons get drafted. Yeah, Javonte Williams.
Not just get drafted. They got drafted fairly decently.
Yeah, they're all within, day 1, day 2?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, except for Daz.
Oh,
Daz went late.
He went a little bit later. But you have Javonte Williams, you have Michael Carter, you have Dyami Brown, you have Daz Newsome, all those offensive weapons. So when these scouts are watching these individual players during the whole scouting process, they also got to see a lot of Sam Howell, and I think Sam Howell is going to benefit from that. He did really well. I'm curious to see how this year's going to go for him, because last year it almost seemed like there were times when he was getting bailed out by his receivers or his running backs. He's trying to throw into double coverage, trying to throw into that triple coverage, and his wide receiver comes down with it, or the pass gets completed. He just lost his top 4 offensive weapons to the draft. I know that they still have talent at UNC.
Yep.
My fear for Sam Howell is it's not going to be the same level of talent, and although we're not going to see Sam Howell perform worse, if his surrounding weapons aren't performing as well, it's almost like it's going to be hurting him.
Okay, so got a couple of things. The first part of this, I will say that talent is quite fantastic, because on one of those talents who went late in the draft just basically made it okay for a certain trade to happen. People don't know that part of it. So everybody knows, connected to a certain thing that we aren't really talking about today, is the Bears traded Anthony Miller to the Houston Texans, which Klein has made a certain other trade of a player going home to the Packers very possible. But this trade in particular originally came about because Daz Newsome has been showing out in the Bears offseason. They really like what they have with him. He is basically oh man, I'm losing the word, but he has excelled
He's done
in what he's done.
He's done
there
better
so
than
far.
expected, so they made Anthony Miller expendable because he performed so
Exactly.
well. Yeah.
Exactly. So that all being said, here's the thing. Number one, Sam Howell might be the most fearless QB in this draft.
I
mean,
love
he
watching
is-
him just stand in the pocket while he's like a defender coming down his chest.
Like it's crazy. I mean, and then just get right back up. The kid is tough. Now note, I think that some of his receivers may have put him in bad positions instead of and then they had to make a spectacular play. So it wasn't them bailing him out. I think at times his receivers, you know. Now note that there's still talent. Everybody likes Diami. Well, Diami's little brother goes to UNC. I think his name's Coffrey. If I'm pronouncing that name right. If I did not pronounce it right, I do apologize. Now, where Sam Howell excels over everyone else in this draft is with his accuracy. Now, note his offense doesn't really do much deep middle, so that's going to be interesting. But he may be the most accurate QB in this draft. The only thing that I say about it, now I know you mentioned the Baker Mayfield thing. I see more Joe Burrow than Baker Mayfield, personally. This is, and what we mentioned at the beginning, Sam Howell's the only player out of all the ones we've listed so far that can stay stagnant and still get drafted high if all the other guys don't do more.
Yeah, I'll agree that he's the one who has, I suppose, the least amount of improving necessary. I think I said that right.
Right.
He doesn't require as much improvement as the other guys do. But
he's also played a lot more than the other guys.
he has, but he's number two. You know, he's a person with the least amount to improve, but he's number two,
Right.
which means
We'll
he's
get
got
to
to
that.
show.
We'll get to that.
He's got to show something this year.
He's number 2 for a reason. I will explain that because, in truth, if there was a draft today, Sam Howell would be my number 1 quarterback drafted. But we're not drafting today. We're doing a scouting session. And since you brought him up, let's segue. The reason why he's number 2
Drum roll.
is when you're scouting, you go for talent. And the most talented quarterback possibly in the draft coming next year is Spencer Rattler, who we both have number 1. He's out of Oklahoma. And this kid has special tools. Is he ready right now? Not even freaking close. He's got a lot of work to do. Not as much work as, let's say, a Carson Strong or a Malik Willis. But he still has a lot of work to do. He has to put it together. He's very inconsistent. Now, good for him. He's got a head coach who could probably put that all together. His head coach has produced 2 of the last, 4 number 1 overall picks?
He had Baker Mayfield, Heisman winner in 17, number 1 overall pick in 18. He had Kyler Murray, 2018 Heisman winner, 2019 number 1 overall pick. He had Jalen Hurts, 2019, after he transferred from Alabama.
I mean, that got a 2nd round pick. That's a feat.
Runner-up to Joe Burrow in the Heisman voting, 2nd round pick. And now he's got Spencer Rattler. Now the benefit for Rattler is Rattler's been with Lincoln Riley the whole time. It wasn't like he transferred in like everybody else we've just mentioned. He's been with Lincoln the whole time, and this is going to be a huge benefit. Another full year. Spencer Rattler's got an extremely high ceiling due to those skills, that athleticism. Very high ceiling. His arm talent allows him to make all of the throws. He's a threat to run the ball at any given moment.
Yep.
He's not just going to stand still in the pocket. He can run, and you're going to chase him. He's a good athlete.
He's the most talented guy here.
He is.
But he's got stuff to do.
He's got stuff to do. He is potentially, actually, not even potentially, he is right now the best overall playmaker of these quarterbacks we've been talking about. Combination of running, throwing first, combination of throwing and running. He is the best playmaker out of this group.
But right now, he is not the best quarterback out of this group.
Nope.
That is Sam Howell.
Good athletes, but that playmaking ability I was just talking about, sometimes that gets him into trouble because he thinks he can do more or should do more than he really needs to do.
Oh, and we didn't mention that about Sam Howell. Sam Howell is sneaky fast. Like Joe Burrow.
But Rattler, if he improves, I see a Heisman and I see a number 1 pick if he continues improving.
He's gonna win the Heisman. I'm stating that right now. He's gonna win the Heisman. All right, just wrapping it up. Anything else to say on this segment?
This segment, they all got questions to answer. I'm looking forward to the fall when they start playing, and we can see who's answering these questions and who's not. Like, who's going to shoot up that draft board, who's going to fall behind. I wish the best for all of these gentlemen out here. I hope they perform well. It's a big stage. It's their dreams. I hope they do well. But we'll be back to re-rank them later on.
All right, moving on to our fantasy football segment.
What?
I'm going to call audible on mine.
Fantasy football.
So, first, we're gonna do our top 10 QB rankings. I think we're gonna go a little bit rapid fire here.
Makes sense.
All right. So, your number 10 guy, Sean.
My number 10
go
guy.
ahead, speak on it.
Jalen Hurts. Right? We're talking fantasy football. We're not talking top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL with games on the line trying to get to the playoffs. So we're talking fantasy football. What does Jalen Hurts have? He's got a rushing threat for a quarterback, which is always a good thing. So could he get you over 500 yards? Yeah, those are bonus points when it comes to fantasy football, right? Real NFL, rushing yards don't equate to points unless you get in the end zone. But as a quarterback who can run, it's a little bit more valuable. Know your scoring system. Know your scoring system. Rushing quarterbacks, bonus points. That's one reason I like him. 2, garbage time. Because Philadelphia is going to be trailing a lot this season. Which means they're going to be throwing the ball. So we're going to see some garbage time points from them. That's why I like Jalen Hurts as number 10. And also, I'm really high on him because in a keeper league that we're involved in, I can keep him in the 29th round.
I get that.
And I really want him to be successful because if I can keep him for like the next 10 years, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but you don't always get what you want.
Nope.
That's what the Rolling Stone says.
Yeah, what's going to happen is Philadelphia is going to trade for Deshaun Watson. That's what's going to happen. It's really going to screw me over.
Also, I'm sorry. I'm not there with you on Jalen Hurts.
That's okay. You didn't keep him.
You can put lipstick on the pig, but, well, you know the rest. So my number 10 guy is Justin Herbert. All right, so I mean, I'm still skeptical because he was a rookie last year. We'll see if what he did was a fluke or this dude's legit. Now, he lost Hunter Henry, but there's a lot to like about him. There's a lot to like coming out, and there's a lot to like this year in fantasy. So we'll just have to see how this works out. Speaking of that, who's your number 9 guy, Sean?
My number 9 guy is Justin Herbert. What?
Oh,
Was that your audible?
yes, it was.
All right, so I have 2 second-year guys to start my list here. Justin Herbert, I like him. He did well last year. He stepped in as a rookie. He performed really well. What you don't like seeing is you don't like seeing coaching changes from rookie season to that sophomore season. We're seeing that both with Hurts and with Herbert. But Herbert I like a little bit more because he probably has the most improved offensive line in football, which is going to be a huge benefit for him. And as part of this new coaching staff, his offensive coordinator is Joe Lombardi, who coached Drew Brees for 12 seasons. If that's not reason to get excited, I don't know what is.
All right, so my number 9 guy is Matthew Stafford. Going over to Sean McVay with the Rams. I mean, Sean McVay made Jared Goff look like a stud at times. We know he's not. So I see Matthew Stafford, who we know has been a legit guy. I know a lot of people don't think so. But this dude, I mean, he was in Detroit putting up numbers, people, without Calvin Johnson. So I could see him doing very well in this offense.
I can see it. Sean McVay, that's good offense for him to be in.
All right, number 8.
Number 8, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. Pete Carroll wants to run the ball more. He keeps saying he wants to run the ball more, which is why I have Russell Wilson a little bit further down on my list than I would if Pete Carroll just stopped trying to run the ball so much. Let Russ cook.
I agree with you there, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So my number 8 guy is Tom Brady. And yes, I know that's blasphemy. He's got so many weapons. He's a GOAT. He can do this. We just saw a training camp video where he was hitting the ball machine like pinpoint over and over and over. Brady can be inconsistent at times. And there's other reasonings for why I have the guys ahead of him. But, I mean, Brady's still going to put up some numbers. So, I mean, I'm good where I have him. Who's your number 7 guy?
Number 7 guy. Boom. Just reported training camp today. Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. He's an effective and an efficient quarterback. You're going to get touchdowns and you're going to get low interceptions. Again, we're looking at this in terms of standard redraft, not dynasty, not unique scoring systems, just standard scoring systems where touchdowns are typically worth 4, interceptions are a -2. He has very few interceptions. That's a big bonus. Know your scoring system. High touchdowns, low interceptions.
So, my number 7 guy is Aaron Rodgers. And I have him at number 7, especially if a certain trade happens. I think he's going to be pissed off if he gets his buddy back. It's going to add us a welcome outlet that he trusts. Problem last year is Aaron Rodgers only had 2 guys he trusted. He had Devontae Adams, and he had Aaron Jones.
Yeah, you had Robert Tonyan.
I guess he did have the tight end. But, I mean, that was a developed relationship. Didn't they let that guy walk too?
No, he's still in town.
He's still there?
Yeah, he's still in town. But when you're thinking at the number of targets, Devontae Adams had so many targets. I'd have to look up the stats, but he had a very high target share, which is not a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing for fantasy football if you own the guy, but if your quarterback's depending on one person alone, and we saw Devontae Adams miss 2 games last year, right? Imagine if he played a full 16 last year. It would have been ridiculous, but you can't have that target share be that lopsided from a quarterback perspective. So,
But moving on to your number 6 guy.
number 6.
Who's your number 6?
My number 6 guy is a guy with 7 rings, Tom Brady. He, very similar to Aaron Rodgers, can put up high touchdown numbers and low interception numbers. So that level of efficiency is something that I like. He is above Aaron Rodgers right now just because he has more offensive weapons available to him. He can spread the ball more. So
Ridiculous.
I know, and that's why he's above Aaron Rodgers.
All right, my number 6 guy is Russell Wilson. Russ is gonna cook. I don't care what Pete Carroll says. What's the name of their running backs?
Chris Carson,
I know
Rashad
who they are,
Penny.
but you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
But like Russ is gonna cook.
Can they stay healthy? Yeah.
You know, Russ is gonna do his thing. Russ is gonna give you rushing. He's gonna do that magic thing where like he's on one side of the field and all of a sudden he's on the other side of the field. It's freaking nuts. I've never seen anybody play football like this ever in my life. I mean, it's wacky. All right, moving on to your number 5 guy.
Number 5, Kyler Murray, Arizona.
And just to be clear, I'm just going to keep it going because this is also
Your number 5 guy?
my number 5
All right.
guy.
What I love about Kyler Murray is he has some good offensive weapons in Arizona, whether Larry Fitzgerald is going to return or not. But he's also a quarterback who can get you over 500 yards on the ground. Sneaky points, don't forget those. Know your scoring system.
Hopefully, he'll have those weapons. I'm banking on he will, but hopefully, because one of those weapons is concerned retirement, we're not going to get into that jargon either. All right, going on to number 4.
Number 4, I got Lamar Jackson. Huge rushing threat, right? This guy could approach 1,000 yards easily on the grounds in that Baltimore offense. The only reason I have him at number 4 and not higher on my list is because I don't quite trust the passing game yet. I know David Culley's gone. He's probably happy about that. You got Sammy Watkins in. Right, you addressed wide receiver in the draft with Rondale Moore. Like, you made some good choices.
Watkins,
On paper,
Rondale Moore.
it looks
then you
good. But I need to see it on the field. I need to see a consistent
Think about
passing
that,
game
though.
on the field.
You got Sammy, Rondale Moore, put Hollywood in the slot, and then Devin Duvernay.
Hey, we're not even talking about the tight ends, right? They got tight ends that are
Right.
dangerous. You got J.K. Dobbins who can catch passes too. Don't forget about that. You get all these weapons.
So he's got to take that step.
He's got, yeah, he and the offense need to take that off that passing game step. And if they do, he could easily be quarterback 1.
All right, so my number 2,
4.
or 4, sorry, is Dak Prescott. Yeah, number 1 in my heart, but you know. So Dak, coming off an injury, I actually pay a lot of attention to Cowboys camp. He's been looking good. Dak has an embarrassment of weapons. It's disgusting there. He's going to put up numbers. It's just what is going to happen. He was on his record pace last year. I think he picks up where he left off, and people don't realize the offensive line wasn't healthy last year. He didn't have his top 2 tackles the whole year, and then like Zach Martin got injured at some point. Everybody's healthy right now. The 2 tackles look like Greek gods. And it looks like time to rock. This Cowboys offense, Dak could easily shoot up this list.
Yeah.
Speaking of Dak,
He's my number 3 quarterback. Could I see him throw for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns? Of course I could. Will he? Probably not.
not.
But he can definitely put up some ridiculous numbers, which would offset any of those turnovers, any of the interceptions, the fumbles, the high touchdown volume, and that sneaky ability to run near the goal line. Bonus points. Yeah, my number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, I actually think he's going to cut down a lot of those interceptions, but he's turning into more of a Favre-esque type guy. Just let's see it. Let's rock and roll and put up some monster numbers. All right, my number 3 guy, Josh Allen, and I'm scared of Josh Allen. I'm gonna be honest with you. Stefan Diggs proved to be a great trade for them, and a lot of Josh Allen's value comes from him running. But he's got that Cam Newton-esque running style, and that scares me because all you need is one injury, and all of a sudden he's not going to be the same dude. So it's a catch-22 because you get a lot of value out of that, but then again, it's a little problematic. Speaking of Josh Allen.
Speaking of Josh Allen, my number 2 quarterback. All of those things
Josh
that
Allen.
you said, he's the rushing threats, which again, bonus points. And we saw what he did with Stephon Diggs last year, and they just got Emmanuel Sanders this offseason to be their second wide receiver. You have Cole Beasley, who may or may not play. We'll see. Who can also be beneficial in the passing game. So there's weapons there. Could he duplicate what he did last year? Yeah. Could he improve on that? Yeah.
So my number 2 guy is Lamar Jackson. My main difference between Jackson and Allen, because I know I just brought up the running style. The difference here is Jackson doesn't take on tacklers. Jackson's more of a finesse runner. He's willing to slide. He kind of jukes. Yes, there's an injury concern, but he's not trying to be as a bully as Josh Allen. Now, if it's no surprise, both of us, number 1 quarterback in fantasy, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, number 1 quarterback in the league probably, Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Do we really need to say why? I mean, do we?
Besides the ridiculous weapons and the ability to just flick a football about 70 yards, make it look effortless.
Playoff platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think we need to. I don't think we need to get into that.
No.
So, all right, I'll shoot. Dynasty. We're going to speak on Dynasty real briefly. Just, Sean, a couple of names out there. Give the people to keep an eye out for Dynasty leagues.
Dynasty, if you're looking at quarterbacks, at least this season, I see Zach Wilson as being the most productive rookie quarterback. Statistically, for fantasy purposes, not real life, because New York can go like 0-16. Who knows? They could. But for fantasy purposes, Zach Wilson starting day 1, no question about it.
But no. Who should they stash? Who's the Dynasty QB? Who's the one that they should stash away? Who's going to be lighting it up in, let's say, 1 to 2 years?
1 to 2 years. If we're stashing people, you gotta stash Deshaun Watson, right? That's an easy
one. I
one.
still think Deshaun Watson's getting drafted high. We didn't put him on the list. I get it. But, I mean, there's extenuating circumstances there. If I'm stashing someone, I'm stashing Trey Lance.
I'm gonna stash Mac Jones.
Really?
You get him late because everybody's gonna overlook him because they're not gonna see that immediate start. But you let him,
right.
You get him in the 28th round and you can keep him in around 26, 24. You can just move it up.
Oh, also, you just mentioned Watson. Also, I'm thinking Tua. Tua could be a late pick because everybody's overlooking Tua. Like, oh, Miami wanted to move on from him to get Watson. Tua could come out and light it up.
Yeah. We're talking about people to stash. How about people to avoid?
Ooh, yes.
I would avoid Denver unless your quarterback is named Watson or Rogers.
No Teddy B for you?
No, I'm avoiding Denver. At the moment, I'm avoiding New Orleans just because of the uncertainty between those two rosters. Avoid Houston just because they're a hot mess. And man, I don't know if I can trust Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, Ben Roethlisberger. Also, avoid any Bears QB unless you're stashing Justin Fields away. I'm just saying. Do not draft Andy Dalton. Period.
Oh no. Oh yeah. You're people who are just going to start the first couple of games. You're thinking Andy Dalton's just going to be a seat warmer for Justin Fields because Justin Fields got to start by week like 5, 6. Trey Lance, like we mentioned, is a good stash. He should be starting by mid-season. Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, go ahead.
Even if it's next year, if it's a dynasty league, the weapons on that San Francisco team.
And Kyle Shanahan. All of that combined makes him a really good option. I have a hard time trusting Trevor Lawrence. I know he's the number 1 overall pick, but Trevor Lawrence, that Jacksonville offense, whether it's this year or next year,
True.
something about it. I mean, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he's very successful. But something about it.
True.
Urban Meyer in the NFL, I don't know. There's a lot of unknown there.
It's going to be entertaining.
That's for sure. They should do Hard Knocks next year.
All right, to wrap up, anything else? Any other advice only on quarterbacks?
Only on quarterbacks? No.
Nothing. All right. So next week, we're going to be dealing with running backs. So that should be fun. Running backs are an interesting discussion these days. Now, Sean, as we always like the end, hey, words of the wisdom for the people.
Words of wisdom, fantasy football, know your scoring system, right? That's how you win. You gotta know the rules, you gotta know how the game is played, you gotta know where your points are, know your scoring system. And I also want to give a special shout out and thank you to the Chicago Bears for sending Anthony Miller to Houston, which is going to send Randall Cobb to Green Bay, which is essentially going to secure Aaron Rodgers coming back. So, Chicago Bears, I thank you because you, whether it's directly or indirectly, allowed Aaron Rodgers to come back. So, many thanks.
All right. I'm not going to be goofy this week. I'll give some fantasy advice. Trust your draft. Don't be that guy hitting the waivers every 20 seconds. Do your research. Trust your draft.
You gotta know how to draft, though. That's why you gotta listen to us.